Welcome to First Unitarian, where our mission is to explore the eternal, nurture community, and pursue the common good. Where we live, where we thrive in community, not in spite of our differences, but because of them. Welcome as well to those of you joining on YouTube. Please take a moment as we get started to introduce yourself in the chat. A sincere thanks to all the volunteers and staff who made our Sunday morning possible. Thank you for all of you. A reminder as well to silence your phone or other mobile devices. Out of an abundance of caution, just a few safety reminders before we begin. Know the closest exit to where you are sitting today, or maybe behind you, as they say. In the event of a fire, we will exit the building and gather at the door here, just past the sidewalk. Please do not drive away until we have an opportunity to collect your name. If you have children in our RE program, do not go to retreat, then they will be brought there later. In the unlikely event of someone enacting violence, remember run, hide, and fight. Finally, there's an AED located in the main corridor of the church office after downtown. A couple of events I wanted to call your attention to. This Tuesday, please consider attending Who is My Neighbor, the voice-sponsored Immigration Civic Academy that will be held at Wesley United Methodist Church beginning at 6:30. Help us meet the goal of sending 60 participants from our church. Beginning in August, on the first Sunday from 5 to 6:30, Reverend Kent and Philip Hyde will begin a sharing circle for anyone coping with loss or significant change. Each session of Life Happens will begin with 20 minutes of spiritual or self-care, followed by a time for sharing in a supportive private atmosphere. The first session is 2 weeks from today. Information about these and many other events, including Mike Dill's ongoing program on world religions in the 10 a.m. slot, is available in the order of service, the weekly newsletter, or our website. If you are not yet on our mailing list, please use the QR code to sign up, or you can sign up under the newcomers section of our website. Reverend Kent has a few more.
Just wanted to highlight a couple of other pieces of housekeeping. Paul mentioned the Who is My Neighbor event happening with Voice on Tuesday at 6:30. This is going to be a great learning opportunity to learn more about the real lived experience of our immigrant neighbors. If you have tried to sign up through that nifty QR code and that technology is not working out for you, visit Kathy Collins, who will be in the Daniel Hall after the service and can literally write down your name and do the sign up for you. I also wanted to highlight after services pretty regularly down in Corley Commons, there's a discussion group where folks discuss what they heard in the service and how it applies to their life. We're calling it Reflections on the Worship Service. One of those is happening this Sunday, and Becky Schaller is our host for that and can tell you more information if you'd like. Thanks.
Let's take a moment to greet one another. Please don't wander too widely as you can. Thank you for helping create the warm welcome in the community. After the service, please stick around and continue your conversation and hopefully make some new friends in the social hall, which you will find out in the floors here. The flowers on the altar this morning were donated by the choir in celebration of Keith Leach's birthday. Happy birthday. For those of you who don't know Keith's choir, For those of you online, please join us by lighting a candle and chalice in your space. Here in the sanctuary, our chalice will be lit by one of our newest members, Elizabeth Nicholson, also known as Theo. We light our chalice in Midtown, Oklahoma City, on land that was home to the first Americans, including the Apache cattle and Wichita, on land that was taken from the Muskogee and Seminole, and other removed and relocated. As we light our chalice, I offer these words by Eric. The chalice as a symbol of Unitarian Universalism arose as a beacon of hope and an atmosphere of cheer. The chalice arose as a sign of promise to the marginalized, neither be forgotten or ignored, because they are beloved and precious from the perspective of God. This morning we remember all the people who have been told explicitly or implicitly that they're anything less than. May we make of our lives a beacon, a symbol of our promise to draw the circle of life, a sign we will not rest until all is in. Our covenant can be found in your order of service. Please join me in reaffirming it. Love is the spirit of the church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to speak the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning. I am Reverend Kent, or just plain old Kent. I'm a tallish, middle-aged white man with brown hair. I'm wearing a blue shirt and my stole that is green with purple lotus flowers on it. We are here because we are people of faith. Within each of us lives the conviction of a saving faith that could restore our broken planet and illuminate our lives and the lives of our siblings. Ancient wisdom teaches that we who would save the world must first save ourselves. We who would restore the planet must learn to restore the broken structures of the institutions closest at hand, to illuminate the lives of our companions and friends. To this end, we center ourselves, acknowledging the trouble of mind and vexation of spirit that accompany us, even here and now. Let us open ourselves to the creative mystery which is at work in our striving, whose servants we are and seek to be. Welcome to our time to be together in worship. Our opening hymn is number 1053. It's in your green hymnal. How could anyone? I want to invite you to rise in body or in spirit to join in singing, and we'll sing it twice. Would you join me now for a short time of prayer or meditation? Spirit of life, love that is beyond name or notice, we gather in gratitude for this good day. It is good to gather with friends to renew our hope and remind ourselves that we are not alone. whether there's joy in our hearts today or fear or loneliness. We gather here to renew ourselves and one another. This morning, the day after the memorial service for Millie Parsons, just shy of her 100th birthday, we hold in our hearts the stalwarts, the doers, the givers, the supporters, our elders, who have built and sustained the institutions we rely on. Be with us all as we shift and share responsibility in ways that are sustainable and life-giving for us all. So may it be. Amen.
Universalism has always been the trickier part of our tradition. Having been raised Catholic, I readily appreciated the importance of moving on from the Trinity. And Unitarianism seemed like a very reasonable step away from that particular role of institution. But when I left the church, I also left behind the idea that heaven, if it had ever really been that real for me, where are all these people? That left me much less sure how to connect with the universalist strands of our tradition and all its fog of salvation. But this reflection has forced me to reconsider. If what we want to retain from the tradition is not salvation in the next life, but love in the here and now, I think I can definitely get behind that. I may even need it. When the new language for Article 2 was announced, the one that replaced our 7 or 8 principles, depending on how you count, with our 6 values, I remember thinking that we were now at least the third faith tradition to center ourselves on love, joining Christianity and loving unity. For most of us, love is a pretty particular experience, even if we're not always good at it. We love our partners and our children, and hopefully ourselves. But choosing to love everyone, and I think we can all attest to how difficult it is to love our enemies in the current system. The parts of the Christian tradition I still find valuable. For example, Paul's discussion of love, which many of us know from weddings, or the inspiration I draw from the books of Yield, suggests what this radical form of universal love might look like. And I can draw some encouragement of what I might even call our progress as we continue to widen the circle of care and concern. But we still have such a long way to go. Perhaps, as we center ourselves anew on the idea of love for all, it is worth remembering that we should not be waiting for God or the after. It always was, and still is, up to us to make this idea real, not in some unspecified future time and place, but right here and right now. One of the ways we manifest this love is that we aspire to this through generosity, one of the 6 unique values. As many of you know, we donate all the undesignated plate offerings every month to a Change for Change partner. This month, that partner is Curbside Enterprises. Curbside Enterprises provides people dignified income for people who often feel like they have no other options, enables people to end their homelessness through their employment and housing programs, and works to put a face on the issue of homelessness, empowers the community to play a role in solving the problem. After over a decade of incubation within the homeless alliance, Curbside is now its own 501c3 nonprofit. You can learn more about them and their work at curbside.org. As we enjoy the offertory music, our ushers will pass the offering plate in the sanctuary. Online, you can make a gift through the One UC website or send a check to person returning. Just write Change for Change on the envelope. Would the ushers please come forward to receive the offering?
reading today is actually a responsive read. I'm going to ask you to join me in just a minute, but I wanted to let you know about a name that may not be as familiar to you from our history. Sophia Lyon Fawes led a revolution in Unitarian religious education. Her teaching and writing focused on a method of experiential learning that she hoped would enable children to develop their own ideas about religion and their own spirituality. Beginning in 1926, for more than 80 years, she was an educator, a theologian, and an author, creating a theology that restored human emotion and experience to their rightful place in our faith tradition. So I invite you to turn with me in your great hymnals, number 657. It matters what we do. And all read the words in regular print and invite you to read the words in italics. Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged.
Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way into wider and deeper sympathies.
Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days with fears of unknown calamities.
Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness.
Some beliefs are divisive, separating the saved from the unsaved, friends from enemies.
Other beliefs are bonds between world and community, where sincere differences feel alive.
Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction.
Other beliefs are like gateways, opening wide vistas for exploration.
Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness.
Other beliefs nurture self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth.
Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world.
Other beliefs are vital, like the young sapling, ever growing the upward thrust of life.
Here ends our reading. short time of silent meditation. You might take a deep breath, settle in a little more deeply, and let us embrace the wisdom of silence shared in the community. Amen and blessing. Earlier this week, I had a challenging conversation with someone. It wasn't a conversation that was calling someone to task that you should have done better conversation. It wasn't even an I'm so sorry conversation. It was one of those more complicated moments when you see something wrong is happening in a relationship between you and someone else, and you want to get back on the right track. Those are very murky waters to wade into. Whether it's with a friend or a coworker or another family member, hard conversations are not fun. When I know one is coming, I spend some time writing down my thoughts. And that helps me to capture the jumble of ideas that just churn over and over in my brain. Once I see them on paper, my brain can let go of that constant churn a little bit. Writing my thoughts down also helps me organize them, picking the right words and the right order of information to make some sense. I don't try to organize my thoughts to have a stronger argument in the conversation. I organize my thoughts before I talk so that I can find the best words to describe my experience, what I am thinking and feeling. It's not about winning or being right. It's about aiming to bring my true and full self to the conversation. We don't always have time to sit down with our journal before a hard conversation, but it can help. For me, it makes things smoother. But that type of thinking through and choosing the right words before a conversation is also what theology is all about, in a way. This morning, I want to invite you all on a journey of thinking through the words. A couple of different pieces of that. One is how we might respond when we're presented with some core Christian beliefs that we disagree with. And the second piece is how you can begin to articulate what you do believe beyond simply rejecting ideas of other people. So today we're spending time talking through a particular piece of Christian theology called substitutionary atonement. For some of you that means a lot, and for most of you it means nothing. But before we do that, we need to be clear that Christianity is wildly diverse. More diverse than you or I could ever imagine. With 2.6 billion Christians filtering an ancient religion through their contemporary culture in every corner of the globe, the possibilities of what Christianity looks like are endless. We, Unitarian Universalists, ponder the possible answers to what it means to be a woman or a man or someone who lives outside the gender binary. We sit with the complexity of what it means to be Muslim and the diversity of expressions of Muslim faith in the world. I hope we also extend the grace of curiosity to our Christian neighbors and wonder what it means to be Christian in its profoundly diverse expression. Today, though, I'm focusing on one piece of Christian doctrine called substitutionary atonement. You've heard it, even if you don't know that phrase. It's basically the idea that Jesus was crucified and died as a sacrifice to atone or pay for the sins of humanity. We've heard that before. Some of you may be thinking, what is he talking about? Did I get teleported to the church around the corner? No, you did not. This is First Unitarian Church. I want to spend a little time talking about substitutionary atonement for a few reasons. One is because of the reaction some of you just had. This is a belief that many of you were raised with, and you may still carry pieces of for a long time. It's a scary worldview that may have seeded in your minds and hearts fear about God or religion or the world. And that merits addressing. The second reason I want to talk about substitutionary atonement is that it is the prevailing line of thought among Christians in the United States today. And finally, we're talking about it because it's a belief that our Unitarian and Universalist forebears actively rejected as they created our tradition. So over 200 years ago, in 1805, Hosea Ballou wrote the book, A Treatise on Atonement. It's widely considered to be a foundational text for Christian Universalism. I cannot say that it is a page-turner. But it does a very good job of systematically dismantling the doctrines of eternal damnation and substitutionary atonement. And it does so by analyzing the Bible with logic. This book, A Treatise on Atonement, was also the foundation for Hosea Ballou's ministry. From a very, very young age, he wasn't able to reconcile his belief in a loving, all-powerful God with the idea of eternal punishment for most of humanity. That just didn't make sense to him. And that drove him to study the Bible closely as he found his own logical path through that. Records show that by 1791, at the age of 19, he was preaching this heretical, life-affirming Universalist faith. 3 years later, Ballou was ordained, and for the next 15 years, he was an itinerant circuit-riding preacher, mostly in Vermont. During that period, he was preparing to publish this book. So I said earlier, substitutionary atonement is the prevailing belief among Christians in the United States today. It was even more so 200 years ago. And Hosea Ballou's ideas make sense in that context, pushing back against substitutionary atonement and eternal punishment. Have you ever wondered about the forever part of hell? Why forever? Well, Orthodox Christians considered sin to be an infinite evil because it was a defiance of God's infinite and eternal law. So they thought the punishment must also be eternal. Hosea Ballou offers an amazing critique of that idea. He pointed out that people are finite. In fact, we are very, very limited. When it comes to sin and morality, the most human beings can do is come up with our best understanding of morality from our very limited perspective and act accordingly. To sin is to do otherwise. And even when humans do sin, the long-term consequences on earth are way more complicated than we ever could imagine. Ballou points to several stories in the Bible that describe moments when human sin turns out, in the long run, to be for good, to further God's plan. I want to repeat that. It's important. several times in the Bible, stories describe human sin to turn out in the long run for the good, for the positive, for the betterment of the world. Our human ability to discern what's morally good is limited by our knowledge and culture. And we certainly can't predict the long-term consequences of any action. It's very clear that human sin is not eternal. Human sin can't possibly infringe on the eternal power or law of God in that framework. So it makes no sense that punishment will be eternal either. Okay, hang with me for just one more big way that Hosea Ballou pushed back the substitutionary atonement. Orthodox Christianity saw the result of humanity's sin as separation from God. The framework of substitutionary atonement required Christ to take on the burden of humanity's sin by being sacrificed on the cross. In that framework, it was God or Christ making the sacrifice to allow God to get closer to humans. But Ballou had a very different understanding of Christ's death. He suggested that the crucifixion and death of Jesus released a great spirit of love into the world, making people better able to atone for their own sins and to be reconciled with God in their own ways. Hosea saw people around him, saw humanity hustling to do better, to grow in moral character. They were making the effort to turn toward the moral good and away from sin and separation. Basically, Ballou said the Orthodox had things backwards. Humanity needs to be reconciled to God, not God to humanity. And we have that ability through Jesus as a great teacher and model, not through dying as a sacrifice. And this is where Ballou got really radical. He thought that this atoning spirit of love was available not only to Christians, but to all people, irrespective of name or denomination or kingdom. In no case would anyone be sent to eternal punishment by a loving God. No sin was that great. Salvation was universal. If you live in that world, with that worldview, that is an incredible relief. Friends, nothing you have done or could possibly do in your imperfect human life is so bad as to separate you from the goodness of life and the universe. Nothing you do can exclude you forever from the family of humanity or love. 220 years ago, our Universalist message was preached by a circuit rider in New England, evangelizing frightened Christians with the good news of a big, radical, inclusive love. That was a whole lot of talk of the mechanics of salvation from a very Christian perspective. Thank you for sticking with me. I want to talk about those because they present the prevailing religious ideas in the United States today, and it may be some theological baggage that some of you carry with you still. The UU minister, Cindy Simpson, tells a story of the evolution of her own thought. She says, quote, "As a child, I was sent by my outspokenly agnostic father and my non-religious mother to the church across the street to be, as they said, exposed to religion. That church happened to be Presbyterian, and I had many wonderful spiritual experiences there, mostly as a member of their excellent choirs. But I always knew, even as a child, that I didn't believe what the others there believed about much of anything theological. including and especially salvation. It was clear to me that with salvation, I was being saved from something and for something else, but I was not clear on exactly what or how, let alone why. She continues, I did not see how I could believe something so specific, so limiting. I also thought that the Christian view of salvation, as I understood it, was the only one out there, owned, as it were, by Christians. Ultimately, I decided I didn't need salvation, whatever it was. Then, for the rest of her sermon, Cindy Simpson goes on to unpack the roots of the word salvation and offer a variety of pictures of what it could mean for Unitarian Universalism as we, imperfect people, navigate a sometimes challenging world in search of healing and wholeness. So remember when I talked about theology as writing your own words before a hard conversation? Sometimes when we're confronted with someone else's specific and devout belief, we're at a loss for how to respond. We don't have a quick, ready formula for salvation or a statement of faith, most of us. But every person, every one of you, has the right and the ability to express your own faith, your own understanding of what is most important and where you find meaning in the world. You've more than likely found yourself in an awkward conversation about religion, and I can almost guarantee you that it will happen again. Rather than freezing in those moments, or smiling and nodding, as I think most of us are inclined to do, what if you spent a little time preparing? What if you wrote down a few sentences in preparation for the hard conversation that you know will eventually come? I want to spend the rest of this sermon offering some examples for you of what that might look like for you or for other Unitarian Universalists. Obviously, the answers are going to be different for each of you, but here are a few examples. The atheists among us might say, I don't believe in the thing that you call God. I rely on science and intuition and the wisdom of community as my sources of truth. And those sources that inspire me and call me to be a better person every day, science, community, and intuition, don't point to something that I would call God. I'm content with that. I'm glad that you have your faith and it gives you comfort, strength, and meaning. I find comfort, strength, and meaning in things other than something that I call God. Or for those of us who identify as Christian Unitarians, it might go something like this. For me, the teachings of Jesus and his vision of a radically inclusive community are the foundation of my faith. Because Christianity is so big, it's sometimes a challenge to follow that path. But I choose to stay connected to a Christian message that is life-giving and true for me, even though it's easy for others to misunderstand my faith, assuming that I'm either a different kind of Christian or that I'm not Christian. For those more connected with nature, your response might be more along these lines. My understanding of the sacred is more rooted in nature than in any deity outside of nature. The beauty that I see in the world, the intricate patterns of the way life fits together, the abundance of our earth, the drive toward life, intelligence, cooperation, and love, all of those things that I see with my own eyes and experience for myself are more true for me than an ancient book or ancient teachers. Around these parts, it's likely that our uncomfortable conversation is going to be about the Bible or about Christianity, focused on Jesus being sacrificed for sins of humanity. What might that response look like? Related to the Bible, you might say something like, I think the Bible is a wonderful piece of literature with many powerful stories and metaphors. I'm moved by the way it inspired so many people for so long. I appreciate that it can be a helpful lens for seeing the sacred in the world. For me, it's not a book that is inherently more true than other works of great literature, philosophy, or science. The Bible is one book among many that we're blessed to inherit as part of this human community. And as for Jesus being sacrificed for the sins of humanity, that's a hard one. An honest response might be something like this. The religion you describe sounds scary. I couldn't believe in a God that is responsible for eternal punishment of most of humanity, or a God that sacrificed his own son, or a God that is responsible for humans being inherently dirty or wrong or sinful. That kind of anger and judgment sounds more like people than God to me. Did you know that there are other ways of seeing religion? In my church, we believe that people are inherently good with dignity and worth. We believe that love, not judgment, is the core principle of our work. For those among us who do use the word God in our faith, it might go something like this. I believe in something big and mysterious that is real, a creative power in the universe. It's beyond human understanding. I call that big, creative, universal love God, because that's the best language I have. I do work to make life and the world better for myself and people around me. Sometimes a lot is outside of my control, though, and in those moments, I trust in a bigger picture. I trust that there is a love holding us. And I'll offer you one last response for the humanists among us. They might say, for me, humanity is where the magic of our world happens. We create beauty through artistic expression. We join together to support one another in stunning ways, including advances in science and technology that have made human lives healthier and happier around the globe. For me, the feeling of gathering with friends and family, sharing ourselves honestly and lovingly with one another, and working to make our world better together, that is where I find the hope. For me, human thriving at an individual or a group level is more important than doctrine or tradition or supernatural mystery. Perhaps one of those statements of faith resonated with you. If you were completely left out of this picture, I'm very curious to hear more about your past. For hundreds of years, our Unitarian and Universalist ancestors were brave heretics, carving out a faith that went against the grain. Their great effort was not simply to write down the answer and hand it to you, the next generation. Rather, they pushed the horizons of belief so that we might continue to explore our own path. I'm not encouraging you or anyone to pick a religious argument with your neighbors or family. But I am challenging you to engage and tell your truth when you can. Because your experience of the holy, your human wisdom, is a unique gift in this world. Amen.
Amen.
Our closing hymn today, in your great hymnals, is number 67, We Sing Now Together. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit.
We extinguish our shells and leave our grateful. As we extinguish its flame, let us carry its glow into the choices ahead. Happiness grows not from comfort, but from connection, from feeling value to ourselves and others, from enlarging our sympathies, from embracing a life of affection and purpose. So let this meeting not end in exhaustion, but in a quiet kind, the kind that comes from showing up, from listening deeply, from shaping the world, however slightly, with compassion and intent. We go forward not alone, but as companions in covenant, tending to the common good, with hope, with humor, and with heart.
Brethren, go in peace. Let the light within you be a blessing to the world.